So it's called the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. And although the changes are meant to reinforce the temporary part of it, what is the real fallout of today's deadline? Well, earlier today, I spoke with immigration lawyer Alexander Stojicevic.
As an academic in Vancouver who follows this carefully, used to say all the time, there's often nothing more permanent than a temporary foreign worker. People will have to deal with the reality now that they can't work past the 4 years legally. So they're going to have to, from a legal perspective, look at other alternatives, open work permits, applying for permanent residence, something of that nature. Or alternatively, you know, I'm sure there'll be people who will go underground, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and to what extent does that become a problem? Because there are people who would look at the situation and say, my gosh, what if it becomes something like what they have in the United States, where this is a really huge portion of the population?
Well, hopefully it doesn't come to that, because unlike the United States, we're a country that's terribly set up for illegal work. I mean, you know, if in Canada your social insurance number expires, you can't get health care coverage. Everything expires with your work permit here, from driver's licenses to care cards to social insurance numbers. You know, in the United States, if you're working illegally, in most states you can still have your ID renewed, you can still go to your bank. So it's kind of a quasi-parallel structure that exists. We don't have that here.
But I suppose that may be some of the fear, right? That you may create this sort of class of citizens who don't have access to medical care, who don't have access to all of those services.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this transition, there will be some people who will not want to go back, and those people may go underground, and it's unfortunate, but there you are.
Last question for you. To what extent is this deadline enforceable? Do they have the manpower to do that?
Well, Canada Border Services does have a unit literally across the street from you here whose job it is to look out for illegal work.
We're talking about tens of thousands of people, though, right?
Sure, but I mean, in each region you're going to have Canada Border Services who'll have a unit that'll be tied to that. But sure, unless there's some active someone complaining about a situation, you're not going to see. They certainly don't have the manpower for massive sweeps around. I'm not sure how legal that would be in any event. The interesting thing, though, is, and back to the theme about this being employer-driven, there is one province that's exempt from this rule to a large extent for lower-skilled workers, and that's who this applies to, occupations code B, C, or D workers. Those skill level of worker are exempt from this rule in Alberta. Because that's where there was an outcry the most from employer groups, and they have the ear of the government.
We're going to leave it there. Alexander Stojicevic, thanks for your time.
Thank you.